Hello there, and welcome to the Nerd Run Sydney. Today you join us as we geek out on Marvel Legends Watcher Build-A-Figure wave, which is pretty much a what-if wave. What do we get in this wave, Jono?
Oh, I'm excited, Joe. We get 7 figures, 6 of them going towards the Build-A-Figure, the Watcher, or Uatu the Watcher. You know what? It's funny. I have read that name so many times in my life. I can't count, but I've never had to pronounce it out loud.
It's like, what was it? Hermione Granger in Harry Potter. That was the big one for everybody back in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah, exactly. Uatu has been in my head all my life, and I've never had to pronounce his name. And then we also get a deluxe figure that comes alongside this wave that definitely supplements it. And some pretty interesting figures, and one figure that isn't a what if figure.
Well, yeah,
But
let's get nerd running, Jono, and let's start with that figure that isn't a what if figure, and that is the Loki figure, or series figure, which is Sylvie, which is a
yeah,
Loki, a very surprising character. I'm not sure if this is a character that was made for this series, Jono, or is this one that's come up in Marvel lore in the past?
there have been female Lokis in the past, definitely. Um, I've never heard of any called Sylvie. This was definitely created for the Loki series. So she's a really cool character. I think really independent, strong character, very different to your standard Lokis. Also really cool because they have done a Marvel Studios wave before that covered WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki, and there was no Sylvie. So nice that we finally get her.
Yeah, you can't not have Sylvie. She was a phenomenal character in the show,
Yeah,
and but that whole love kind of side of the story, that was brilliant. I think it was really well done, very
so well done.
unusual,
Yeah,
and not something that I guess would necessarily work on paper. But boy, did it work in the show. But looking at this figure here, it's starting really strong. It is a beautiful figure.
yeah,
She's got this really cool that Loki cape or jacket on her, which does come off the figure
yep.
as well. But yeah, what are some of the standout features for this for you? I know that sword there means something in Loki lore.
Yeah, it does, and it's nice that they put it here because the sword you see it using in the movie in Loki lore, it's a sword that he's been able to wield. But then again, for all of the Loki I've read in my life, I've never really seen that pulled out too often. So nice inclusion. I think it's a very solid figure. The interesting thing is in this wave, it's the only figure based off an actual human because everything else is based off an
Mm.
animated series.
Yeah, and
So
it's a really nice likeness as well, I think.
yeah,
And
it
as
is.
we go through, you'll see all of these figures have very nice likenesses. And I think
Yeah,
let's just jump to the next one,
yeah,
which for you and I is probably it's our highlight of this wave.
definitely.
More reasons than one, but it is it's the Captain Carter. So what
Yeah,
if she was the one who got the syrup? I was about to say syrup.
the super soldier syrup.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I'd
super
love
soldier
that.
syrup instead of Steve Rogers. And
Yeah,
I thought the episode was fantastic. This figure is glorious. What do you like about
it's
it?
it's everything. The design is fantastic, and what I love the most is that there was no Captain Carter as a character in terms of one having the powers of Captain America up until a couple of years back, and it was in a 75th anniversary celebration of Captain America in a game called Puzzle Quest.
Oh, cool.
So there's a Marvel version of Puzzle Quest. A smartphone game, right?
Yep.
And they created Captain Carter, but they called her Captain America. So her uniform was based off Cap's MCU uniform. It had the star in the front. The shield was the standard Captain America shield. What I love with the What If episode is that they made her essentially a Captain Britain-esque character,
Yep.
but they didn't name a Captain Britain for a very good reason because that's a completely different character that we might see in the MCU in the near future. Who knows? There's been hints that that was actually hinted at in Endgame, where Peggy Carter, when Steve Rogers sees her in Endgame during his adventures through time, apparently some people were able to figure out what she was talking about, even though you couldn't hear her audio very well, and it
Wow.
was Captain Britain.
That is
So
so cool. Wow.
yeah, so really, really interesting that they've given her a costume that's very you could call her Captain Britain, but they kept her Captain Carter. Yeah, I'm really intrigued. She has popped up in the comics finally, though. There was a series a couple of years ago called The Exiles. It was actually the third run of The Exiles that came back, and they were a dimension hopping team of superheroes And in one of the dimensions they went through, they ran into a version of Captain Carter that was again similar to this, but she kind of wore a tie underneath, and it was a slightly different uniform again. And that was the first time we saw she was Captain America again. But yeah, with it, we saw it in the comics. So now we've seen her in What If. A lot of people, this wasn't their favorite episode. I loved it. I thought it just set up really well. But we might see her again.
Look, I'm with you there. I thought it was fantastic, that first episode. And as we've gone on through the series, but in the Doctor Strange episode, the centric episode, there was that creature that made an appearance in the first episode, in that episode. So I was very excited to see that, thinking, oh, are we going to see her in this as well? We didn't, but I wouldn't be surprised that they seem to be tying these in some way already.
Well, rumor mill, and if you don't like rumors, just close your ears for like 10 seconds. Rumor mill is in season 2. We'll see Captain Carter again at the start of season 2, and she'll start assembling a team of interdimensional possible Avengers or a superhero team. So that Exiles I was talking about before could actually be coming to the MCU. We'll wait and see.
Cool. And look, just speaking of this, before we move on from this figure here, it is a beautiful sculpt as well. She was hulking in the episode. I loved how, they changed her physique like they did Steve Rogers in the TV show, in the movie, TV show. This is the TV show. I think they did a really cool job with that. Look, and going.
I can't wait can't wait to see how she scales against my other figures, because I've got to say this is coming into my collection for sure. And between you and me, Joe, I'm really tempted by the Build-A-Figure in this, so maybe the rest of the line might come to me as well. We'll wait and see.
Absolutely. And look, I think she looks, she is got that representation from the TV show. But going on to the next figure here, we've got T'Challa as Starlord. This one does look more cartoonish to me than the one we just spoke about. This is a very unusual episode. I really liked how very closely they played it to the movie. There were so many subtleties in terms of the way that he interacted and did things that took place in the actual Peter Quill first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But tell us a little bit about this guy.
It's such an interesting twist, one that I'd never thought of when they first were showing figures, because a lot of the figures and Lego characters were shown off before the series even came out. So we knew about T'Challa, Starlord, well before we got to see him. And really interesting take, and one I didn't think would work and landed so well. Have we seen it before in the MCU? Not that I'm aware of. Okay. So this is a wholly new creation, but I think it brought about some really interesting takes on the universe, and I'm really intrigued to see if we see that universe again.
Yeah, and that episode, in terms of the voice talent that was there, was stellar. It had pretty much everybody from the movies as well. It was just fantastic.
And it was Chadwick Boseman's final run as Black Panther.
Yeah, and
T'Challa.
Yeah, and it was brilliant. It was nice to hear him and see that kind of. He had like a really nice swagger to him in that episode. And he kind of made that Peter Quill character look a little bit inferior in a lot of ways, but
so far, yeah.
Cool.
What I do like, you did mention that it looks a little bit more cartoony. I find it interesting that when you switch the heads, because he actually comes with a mask off and a mask on head, that the mask off head actually aligns him a little bit more with the rest of the line, but the mask on head makes him look a little more cartoony.
And he also comes with a Watcher's head there, which is a beautiful sculpted head. I love it. Those
which
eyes.
We'll come back to.
Yeah, we'll come back to that very soon. Well, look, and keeping on the T'Challa-centric episode, we've got Heist Nebula with her beautiful locks, which is a very cool way to kind of show the differences in the universe for her. What do you think of this one?
I thought she was fantastic. It was nice to see a confident Nebula, and probably more in keeping with the comic Nebula. When I was first introduced to Nebula was back in the day in the Avengers, when I first started collecting the Avengers back in the early 90s. And she was fighting the Avengers, and SpiderMan joined the team temporarily, and that never happened much before. And it was a very temporary joining. He didn't stay around until much later in the 2000s. But in the comics, she had black hair. She still put herself out there as the granddaughter of Thanos in the comics. So it's interesting to see her look a little bit more like that Nebula. But yeah, I really like the shifting character, and I think this one matches the episode so well. So it's funny. It's probably one of my least favorite characters when I first saw the wave and hadn't seen the episode. But now seeing her, I think it's going to be cool.
I think the colors of this figure are beautiful. I think that the way they kind of highlight and contrast each other, and that she's kind of like a ultra realistic Smurfette almost with that with the
Yeah.
blue skin and
I wonder if that was
blonde hair.
intentional with the blonde hair. Yeah.
Well, if that's what they were going for, I love the Smurfs back in the day, so I'm a big fan. But look,
That's fantastic.
I think where we're up to at the time of recording this, the most recent episode is the next one that we're looking at now, which is a
Yeah.
Doctor Strange Supreme. I found this episode not like it was my least favorite of the three of the episodes so far.
Oh,
Yeah, look, but I could see that the time loop was it's a tried and done thing
yeah.
before.
Yeah.
But where he was going and the way it went and that kind of revelation at the end about how long had passed and all that was really cool.
Yeah.
But this is again a very cool likeness of Benedict. I can never say his surname properly.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Thank you. But we had a Doctor Strange figure in the last episode that we did as
Yeah, we
well,
did.
with the Armadillo Build-A-Figure wave. So he had the hands there as well. But tell us, he looks really cool. I've got to say
He
though, this is
does.
a very menacing kind of figure.
Yeah, very corrupted Doctor Strange.
Mm,
I like it. Like, especially in the episodes, he's absorbing all these creatures into himself, and those tentacles are
yes.
actually a potential callback, not just that Captain Carter episode, but also to a Doctor Strange villain, a traditional one from the comics called I'm going to pronounce it horribly. And Joe, I know you'll put this in the video down the bottom for me, so that'll be good. It was Shago Gorath or something like that. Anyway,
That's a character from Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I
yes,
believe.
it
I, I,
is.
I
You
love
are
that
correct.
game. I'm going
I
to
was
take
waiting
you
for you to
on
say
a
that.
ride. Anyone who's played the game knows exactly what I'm talking about there. So,
It's that character. He's actually a traditional villain for Doctor Strange, and apparently has existed throughout all of time, and is interdimensional and can kill things just with his giant eye. And all we've seen is tentacles so far.
oh, cool.
So I thought that was really cool. It doesn't relate to the figure in any way, but he absorbs some of the tentacles, so he's partly that character. Well, I
And
loved the episode though. I really enjoyed it. It was a very tried and true, time loop type story, but just seeing a corrupted version of Doctor Strange fighting, and if you haven't watched the episode, stop listening. Himself.
You've watched it.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool. In fact, to your point, Joe, if we get that Spider-Man wave and we get this what if wave, well, you've got the two Doctor Stranges you need to fight each other.
Exactly, and he's got a glorious cape as well, like the other Doctor Strange too. And you
He
can see
does.
in the pictures that the cape's got that nice kind of lines and circles on the inside too. I think they've done a really great job with this figure. Yeah, I think maybe the weak point is that kind of belt that he's wearing there. But I think the rest of it is really cool. And
Yeah, I like it all. It's good.
so we're going now onto our unknown, but I guess by the time this is up, probably we've seen it, and that is
Yeah.
the zombie. So there's zombie Captain America to start with. Now this
Yep.
is the figure that doesn't come with any of the Build-A-Figure parts, which
Yeah.
generally, in my understanding, and you're an expert over this way more than I am, but my understanding is they do that because that's kind of like the more premier piece or the more sought after figure in the collection.
Yeah, it usually has been. It's usually been the character that you know is going to sell regardless. So why put an extra piece in there? You want everyone to buy all the other characters to get all the pieces for the Build-A-Figure. So Zombie Cap seems to be it. But then, while you and I, Joe, can take or leave zombies depending on how we feel about it, a lot of people love zombies. So
Yeah.
Zombie Captain America, I think, is going to go down pretty well.
Well, it's funny though, Jono, because my history with Marvel Zombies is quite extensive. I've got pretty much all of the
Yeah,
comics
that's
that
right.
they've ever released of it. I'm a big, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead fan as well. So that's
Yeah.
kind of, there's been lots of crossover things with Deadpool, with zombies and things as well. I've always
Yeah,
loved
true.
the what if kind of the various the strange tales
Yeah.
and all that sort of thing that Marvel have done over the years. So I
Yep.
think this is a really cool figure. It's got some really great details with all the kind of flesh being ripped off and you can see
And the spiders on the shield. And
yes, on the bones and things. And that's it. That shield is cool as well. Yeah, I think it's a really nice figure, and it goes nicely with the zombie
Yeah.
hunter Spidey. He's got some blood on one of his legs there, and I wonder if that's kind of like a key thing in the show that we're gonna see. But I think this with Spidey with his actual Spidey head. so with the mask on, is
Yep.
really really cool. I don't like the face as much, but I think the Spidey figure is a great one.
You know what's funny? I'd not noticed the blood on the leg. That's such a good point, Joe. Because you're right. The cape of Doctor Strange
Yep.
comes off quite comfortably, and you can swap the heads to have a regular Spidey head on it. And what you have is like an animated version of the MCU Spider-Man, which is pretty cool. But wow, I had not noticed the blood. That does change things. I mean, maybe he's just been injured in battle. I do like this figure because I think it gives you the ability to have something that plays both to that What If episode as well as a more traditional esque Spidey. And to your point, Joe, both of these figures, yeah, there's been plenty of Marvel Zombies comics over the years, and these are clearly, this is where the inspiration's being pulled for them.
Yep.
I'm really intrigued to see how this episode plays out because I don't know if you've seen Instagram. Marvel's been putting up their advertising as they do usually the day before a What If episode drops, and we've seen Zombie Cap and we've also seen Zombie Hawkeye in that advertising. So take a look on Instagram or do a web search. I'm sure you'll find it, or Joe will probably find the picture and put it in this video for you all. So yeah.
And I expect that there to be more Marvel Zombies range in future Marvel Legends figures for sure. These are cool, and these are going to sell. But
there's plenty more animated series to come. So I don't think, you're going to have a shortage of figures somehow.
Yep. And look, so before we get up to the Build-A-Figure, let's talk about the premiere kind of side figure that was released with this, which goes really nicely with the Captain Carter. I know you can actually clip her on the back of this, like as a kind of a play piece from the show. So this is the Hydra Stomper.
Yep.
Jono, this is a beautiful figure. This is like, gives me Iron Giant vibes.
It does, doesn't it? It's they've matched the Iron Giant with
Iron Man.
Iron Man, exactly. It's all powered by the Tesseract, which is just nuts. The only thing I agree with you, the figure looks beautiful. It's a really nice representation. It's got the boosters on the jetpack on the back, and it's got that handle for Captain Carter. The only thing I would have liked to have seen is either the helmet being able to lift away and you see a little Steve Rogers inside driving it, but then I think it might have interfered with the sculpting and also the posability of this figure. So it's a really lovely figure. I think they've done a brilliant job with it. It's the cool thing about this figure, it's a deluxe figure, and Hasbro's been doing a few of these over the last couple of years where a figure that they want to either give some more accessories to or be a little bit larger in stature have been released this way. So some great examples, and some of these are actually in my collection, classic comic War Machine, which is just absolutely amazing. Thanos, classic comic Thanos, a really cool comic version of Venom that was originally a Build-A-Figure, but they released as just a standard deluxe. There's Age of Apocalypse. So there's been quite a few deluxe figures like this. And this is another really cool one. You're right, perfectly launched to suit the wave.
Yep. And look, and to round the wave off, like I said, we've got the 6 figures. So T'Challa, Sylvie, Zombie Hunter, Spider-Man, Nebula, or Heist Nebula, she is here, Captain Carter and Doctor Strange Supreme build together to form the Watcher. Now, the Watcher is, very powerful being in Marvel lore, kind of, in a lot of, like I've said, a lot of my history of Marvel Comics reading, this character has been used really well in the comedic kind of things in the Strange Tales as well.
I never even thought of that. Yeah, I'm used to him turning up in big Marvel crossovers or in Avengers issues where something major is about to happen, and he just turns up. And if he does turn up, you're in trouble.
So, or that great Stan Lee cameo as well, right?
In Guardians Volume 2, exactly. That one was fantastic. It was the fact that they acknowledged it then was brilliant. Now that we actually get him in universe, I mean, admittedly only animated so far, but I think that opens him up for live action in the future. I really like this figure. A lot of people think that it's changed a little bit too much from the comic look. I think it's actually got still a really nice regal look to it. And size-wise, look, unless it went into HasLab as a Kickstarter project and they made him, the size of Galactus, which we probably weren't going to get, I think he's a good size. Yeah, and he's been known to change size anyway, so.
And he's still much bigger than the standard figures within the collection.
Definitely.
That's really cool. Yeah, look,
We
I
can
think.
we can have him tell off Doctor Strange Supreme. It'll be great.
Well, look, I think overall this is another great wave of figures. The Build-A-Figure again is a standout, is a
Yeah.
highlight, and yeah, thank you for coming and nerd running with us. We hope you join us next time. If you like this one, you probably like our last one on the Armadillo Build-A-Figure wave. But we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, definitely. And Hasbro, stop making so much. I can't afford it.